Okay, so I know this is a little bit late, and there are already a lot of Elden Ring reviews, but I see a lot of things that I either agree with or don't agree with in those reviews, so I'm going to be saying my personal opinion on the game. With three main categories being bosses slash enemies, the game's locations, and like combat slash weapons. Bosses slash enemies. So there are a lot of locations in Elden Ring and things that you can do. Like if you explored for less than 5 minutes, you could find something new. So with that, and the map sizes being huge, it causes a decent amount of bosses to either repeat or just have a basic reskin. Which, honestly, I think that's fine. Because, well, would you prefer more locations with some bosses that repeat? Or would you prefer not as much, but they are fresh bosses? And if you really don't want to do them, you don't even have to for the main progression, besides a certain exception I'll be getting to soon. Anyways, so there is one problem with Elden Ring boss fights, and that is the duo fights. Oh my. Let's take the Godskin duo for example. Take two different enemies that are already just difficult, totally different locations, and just because they look similar, plop them in the same boss room and make you fight them. And it basically almost forces you to summon. And if you beat them without summons, well, good job. So, two other examples of this is the Crucible Knight and Leonine Misbegotten fight and the Valiant Gargoyles, both of which are some of the most annoying boss fights in the game. Alright, then there are difficult bosses, which I love the harder bosses in the game like Melania, but sometimes it just feels unfair, such as the Waterfowl Dance, which I think I was able to dodge like once in my 20 tries against Melania. Can be annoying at points, because sometimes it feels like the game messed up and not you, in a sense. Okay, well, now time to talk about enemies. There are many different kinds of enemies in Elden Ring, which can make the game diverse depending on which area you are in. But the enemies don't scale with your level, which I understand, it's an open world game, so problems gonna happen. But for say, at the start of the game you head to the Dragonburnt Ruins. You go to the chest. Oh no, that chest teleports you to this cave. Oh, look at some enemies. And you attack them and you do literally no damage and they two-shot you.
Alright,
That is the problem with this. Though I definitely understand it, this is a problem with open world games. And once you escape that cave, you get sent to Caelid, which has some of the hardest enemies in the game. But if you are careful and stay in areas that you should be, depending on what level you are, the enemies should be mostly pretty balanced with your build. Okay, so overall, I think that the bosses and enemies in Elden Ring are great. Don't get me wrong. There are some things that could be improved upon. Locations. Okay, so the locations of Elden Ring are just absolutely amazing. Well, most of them. Anyway, locations in Elden Ring are probably some of the best looking I've ever seen in a video game, from Lindell to Rayo Lucaria Academy. These locations are usually packed with content from hidden walls, to random enemies in the corner that could drop loot that you need to progress later in the game. Anyway, the locations of Elden Ring are amazing, and even the non-legacy dungeons are nice because they're all unique in their own way and have a boss. The only problem with some locations is having to sometimes search up how to get to them, just because of how much there is. After 2 hours exploring Mount Gelmir, I just couldn't find the Ricard boss, so eventually I had to search up how to get there. It still took me 15 minutes. Lastly, combat. Combat in Elden Ring can be put into two parts, PvP and PvE. I would say that the PvE is okay. There are some weapons in the game that are just not as good as the other ones. And such as top tier weapons, like the Great Sword for example, is just so much better than, for say, the Whip. Even that weapon can just be as good as a fully upgraded trash weapon, which makes a lot of rewards useless in the game. that is one problem with the exploration. On the PvP side of things, it used to be a disaster with things like the Rivers of Blood Katana being able to kill anything and anyone in literally seconds. But recently, a patch 1.06 came out which nerfed the Rivers of Blood and other overpowered things such as Bloodhound Fang. This made PvP in Elden Ring good again, and now people are actually starting to get more into Elden Ring PvP. So overall, there is a ton I could review, and I might actually make a part 2, who knows. But Elden Ring is pretty much a masterpiece, I'm not going to lie. With the positives outweighing the flaws by an insane margin, and Elden Ring has almost no one huge flaw. And it's around 45 hours of just constant fun and exploration on average. So I rate Elden Ring a 9 out of 10 game. Okay, if anyone disagrees or agrees with me on these things, I did this just for fun. It took a really long time. Please tell me if you agree or disagree in the comments. Alright, see ya. Oh yeah, hey, before the video ends, I've been struggling with this boss recently. It's pretty difficult. If anyone knows how to beat it, tell me please. Okay, bye.